Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yes, welcome everyone. We have a really beautiful and a really interesting topic today.
We do. Our mission today is to explore Surah Al-Baqarah. That is the second chapter of the Quran.
Right, and it is also the longest chapter. I mean, it is a huge text.
Exactly. And for you listening, whether you are a beginner or you already know a lot about Islam, well, we have a special goal today.
Yeah, we want to understand this amazing chapter, of course, but we also want to help you practice and improve your English.
So we're going to use clear, simple English today. And if we use an advanced word, we will stop and explain it to you.
Right. We'll give you the meaning and a simple example. It is perfect for anyone at an A1 to B2 English level.
Perfect. So let's jump right in. Surah Al-Baqarah translates to the cow in English. And it has 286 verses.
Wait, let's teach our first vocabulary word right there. The word is verse.
Oh, good idea. A verse is like a single line or a short section in a holy book. In Arabic, it is called an ayah.
Exactly. So for an example, you could say, I read a beautiful verse from the Quran today.
That is a great example. So this chapter has 286 verses. And the sources tell us it was revealed in the city of Medina.
Yeah, and that location, Medina, is actually really important.
Why is that? I mean, why does the city matter so much?
Well, you know, the Quran's chapters are mostly divided into two times, Meccan and Medinan.
Right, before the migration and after.
Exactly. For the first 13 years in Mecca, the early Muslims were, they were a small group. They were treated very badly.
They were just trying to survive, really.
Yeah. So the verses from Mecca are very poetic. They focus on theology. You know, who is God? What is the afterlife? Things like that.
But then they moved to Medina.
Right. They migrate to Medina and suddenly they are building a real society. They have a city to run.
Ah, I see. So the rules have to change.
Exactly. Surah Al-Baqarah is a Medinan chapter. It still talks about God, but it also gives practical laws, rules for money, for marriage, for the community.
It's like a guide for a brand new civilization. In fact, our sources mention a really cool title for this chapter. They call it the canopy of the Quran.
Oh, that brings up a great vocabulary word, canopy.
Let's explain it. A canopy is like a large cover or a tent. It goes over you to protect you.
Right. An example sentence is, the trees formed a green canopy over the road.
So the scholars call this chapter the canopy of the Quran because it covers so many different topics. It covers the whole society.
It really does. But, you know, there is something very surprising right at the beginning of this huge guide.
Yes, the very first verse, it is just 3 disconnected Arabic letters. Aleph, Lam, Mim.
Just 3 letters.
Right. And they don't form a word. I mean, if this is a giant guide to life, why start with random letters? It is like opening a big dictionary and the first page just says A, E, I.
It seems confusing, right? But what is fascinating here is that it's totally on purpose.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, you have to think about the people in Arabia in the 7th century. They loved language. They were master poets.
So words were very important to them.
Words were their pride. They had big poetry competitions. So by starting with Alif, Lam, Mim, the Quran is giving them a linguistic challenge.
Let's explain that word for our listeners. Challenge.
Good idea. A challenge is a difficult task that tests your ability, like a test to see how good you are.
For example, running a marathon is a big challenge.
Perfect. So the Quran is challenging these master poets. It is saying, here are the simple letters you use every day. Now try to write a book as perfect as this one.
Wow, so it takes the exact letters they know and says, let's see if you can do this.
Exactly. It shows divine authority. It makes the reader feel humble right from the very first verse.
That is amazing. But you know, the challenge isn't just about the words. It is also about how the whole chapter is built.
Oh, you were talking about the structure, the ring theory.
Yes. Let's talk about ring theory. Imagine a master builder making a huge building, but they don't have a plan written down.
Right, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, could not read or write.
Exactly. Yeah. And the verses came down slowly, piece by piece, over 9 long years. They came down because of random events.
Like a question someone asked, or a battle, or a problem in the city?
Right. But when the chapter is totally finished after 9 years, you look at the structure and it is a perfect mirror.
Let's teach the word symmetry here, because that is what this is. Symmetry.
Oh, great word. Symmetry means when 2 sides of something are exactly the same, like a butterfly's wings.
Yeah. You could say the human face has natural symmetry.
So Surah Al-Baqarah has perfect symmetry. Instead of a normal story from start to finish, it is shaped like a circle or a ring.
The beginning matches the end.
Exactly. The first part talks about the beginning of humanity with Adam, and the last part talks about where humanity will end up.
And as you move to the middle, the topics keep matching up, layer by layer.
Yes, and the very middle verse, verse 143, is the exact center of all 286 verses.
And what does that verse say?
It literally says, "Thus we have appointed you a middle nation."
Wow. The word middle is in the exact middle verse of the chapter.
It blows my mind. And historically, this middle verse is about a huge event, the change of the Qibla.
The direction of prayer?
Right. At first, the early Muslims faced Jerusalem when they prayed, but verse 143 told them to turn and face the Kaaba in Mecca instead.
That was a very hard test for the people. Changing your direction of prayer is a big deal.
Yeah, it tested who was really listening to God rather than just doing what they were used to.
And God put this huge test right in the physical center of the chapter.
But I have to ask a skeptical question here.
Go ahead.
Couldn't someone have just edited the chapter later? Like, couldn't a scholar sit down with a pen years later and say, let's put this verse here so it makes a nice circle?
It is a normal question to ask, but the historical sources say no.
They do?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The history shows that when a verse came down, the prophet would immediately tell his companions exactly where to put it.
So the order was decided right away, in real time.
Right away. There was no editing later.
Yeah.
And this ring structure actually had a very important job. It helped people remember the chapter.
Because they were an oral society. They listened and spoke. They didn't read books much.
Exactly. Memorizing 286 verses is hard, but if you know the first half mirrors the second half, it creates a map in your mind.
So if you remember the start, you naturally remember the end.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
It really is. It is an ancient way to protect information.
Okay, so we know how the canopy is built. It is this amazing symmetrical ring.
Yeah.
But what is under the canopy? What are the actual stories and rules?
Well, a big part of it is history, specifically the history of the children of Israel.
Right, the chapter is literally called The Cow. And that name comes from a story about the Israelites.
Yes, the story of the yellow cow.
So what is that story about? Is it just about an animal?
No, it is a lesson about human behavior. God gave the people a very simple command. He said, sacrifice a cow.
That sounds easy enough. Just pick a cow.
Exactly. But the people didn't just do it. They started asking lots of small, unnecessary questions.
Like what?
Like, what color should it be? How old is it? What does it look like? They asked so many small questions that the simple command became very hard.
Oh, I see. They made it difficult for themselves.
Yes. So the Quran tells this story to the new Muslims as a warning.
A warning to not repeat the same mistakes.
Right. It teaches them to not make religion too complicated. Keep your heart open and follow the simple rules without arguing over tiny details.
That makes perfect sense. And after it gives that history lesson, the chapter moves into the practical laws for the city of Medina.
Right, real rules for society, like fasting during the month of Ramadan, rules for marriage and divorce.
And rules about money. In fact, it strongly forbids something called riba.
Let's teach that word. Riba translates to interest or usury.
Interest. That is when you borrow money and you have to pay back extra money on top of it.
Right. An example is the bank charges a high interest rate on the loan.
So why was banning interest so important in 7th century Arabia?
Because the interest system back then was very cruel. If a poor person could not pay back a loan, the debt would double.
Wow, it would just keep growing.
Yes. People would lose their homes. Sometimes they were even sold as slaves just to pay the rich people.
That is terrible.
It was. So by banning interest completely, Surah Al-Baqarah protected the poor people. It made the economy fair.
And that brings us to something that really surprised me in our sources today.
What is that?
We are talking about the longest chapter in the Quran, right?
Right.
So you would think the longest single verse in the whole Quran would be about something highly spiritual, like heaven or angels or the afterlife.
You would think so.
But it's not. The longest verse in the entire Quran is verse 282. And it is entirely about writing down a loan.
Let's give a quick vocabulary word there. Debt.
Oh, yes. D-E-B-T. The B is silent. Debt.
A debt is money that you owe to someone else. Like he works hard to pay off his debt.
Good example. So this huge verse is just a practical guide. It says you must write the debt down, you must have an honest person write it, and you need witnesses.
It sounds like a modern business contract.
It really does. It feels so unmystical for a holy book.
Well, it might feel that way to us today, but to the Quran, there is no difference between spiritual life and everyday life.
So the market is just as important as the mosque.
Exactly. Being honest with money and writing a fair contract is a form of worship. You are obeying God by being fair to your neighbor.
That is a beautiful way to look at it. So the chapter has this heavy earthly practical side, but our sources also show it has a deeply spiritual side too.
Yes, the virtues of the chapter. Or in simple English, the special blessings it has.
Let's share the story about the Prophet's companion, Usayd ibn Hudayr.
Oh, that is a famous historical account.
Right. So it is the middle of the night. Usayd is outside, and he is reading Surah Al-Baqarah out loud. Suddenly, his horse starts jumping and getting very scared.
The horse is tied up near him.
Yes. So Usayd stops reading, and the horse calms down.
Okay.
And he starts reading the chapter again. And the horse gets scared again. Usayd stops because he is worried the horse will step on his sleeping son.
That makes sense.
But then, Usayd looks up at the night sky. And the history says he saw a cloud filled with glowing lamps just floating up into the sky.
Glowing lamps in a cloud.
Yes. So the next day, he tells the Prophet Muhammad about this, and the Prophet tells him, those were angels.
Angels. Let's define that simple word just in case. An angel is a spiritual messenger from God.
Example, the angel brought good news.
Right. And the Prophet told him that the angels came down because they loved hearing Surah Al-Baqarah being read.
He even said if Usayd had kept reading, the people in the city would have seen the angels in the morning.
That shows how powerful the early Muslims believed this chapter was. It wasn't just words on a page, it was alive.
Exactly. And that power is really clear in verse 255 of this chapter, the throne verse, or Ayatul Kursi.
Oh, many scholars call that the greatest single verse in the Quran.
It is a beautiful description of God. It says God never sleeps, and he never gets tired of protecting the universe. Millions of people memorize it and say it every single day for protection.
And we also have the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. The sources say these verses are a special gift.
A gift from where?
The tradition says they were given to the Prophet Muhammad directly from a treasure under God's throne during his night journey to the heavens.
Wow. From under the throne itself.
Yes. So Muslims believe that reciting this chapter brings real protection. Let's teach the word protect.
Protect means to keep someone safe from danger or harm.
Example, a mother will always protect her child.
So reading this chapter protects your home. The Prophet even said, do not turn your houses into graveyards. He meant that a house where Al-Baqarah is read is safe from the devil.
It brings life and blessings to the home, and the protection continues even after this life.
How so?
Well, the Islamic tradition says that on the Day of Judgment, Surah Al-Baqarah will actually appear as a cloud or a flock of birds, and it will protect the person who used to read it.
It will intercede or speak up for them.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground today.
We have. Let's quickly remember what we learned.
We started with those three mysterious letters, Elif, Lam, Mim, a challenge to the great poets.
Then we learned about the perfect symmetry of the ring structure, how the middle verse is literally about being a middle nation.
We talked about the history of the yellow cow, warning us not to make rules too complicated.
And the strict laws for society, like banning interest to help the poor and writing down debts.
And finally, the beautiful angels and blessings that come when you read it.
It is a complete guide. It organizes human society right down to the money, and it connects the human soul to God.
Truly amazing. Before we finish, let's just take a moment for a short reflection and a dua, a prayer.
Yes. May God give us all clear understanding. May he make learning easy for us and protect our hearts and our homes.
Amen to that. And for you listening, we want to leave you with one final thought to think about today.
Right. Sometimes we think ancient people were simple just because they didn't have computers or modern schools.
But think about Surah Al-Baqarah. It is a perfect symmetrical text. It is a brilliant legal guide. And it was spoken out loud, piece by piece, over 9 years by a man who could not read or write in the desert.
It makes you wonder, if the ancient world could produce a perfect structure like that without a pen or paper, What other amazing things are hidden in the history we sometimes ignore?
That is something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, and thank you for practicing your English with us today.
Keep practicing, keep learning, and we will see you next time.
Peace be upon you, and have a wonderful day.